Okay, now we have completed the model. We need to add annotation to the model, also add dimensionings based on ANSI dimensioning standards. Let's begin adding the annotation in the model first. For this particular case, we will add notes, general notes, and define the physical properties by selecting the mass and also indicate the material. So we have this one, and then also we need to add material. In this case, the material is asking to define as aluminum. Actually, this is not the one. I need to add the material equal to material and then apply. So let's right now shows generic. Of course, we haven't added yet. We need to right click on this block reference, which is in this case block base is the name I have called, and then you can do that, or you can also use properties. It's sometimes hard to pick that one here. You can always go to the block properties on the file too. You can add from there too as well. Physical, and rather than generic, we want to have aluminum 6061 and apply. So information is given here, and we save the file. Don't forget to do that. And then you start our class template. In this case, we will begin either your engineering 2 or engineering 18, depending on the class that you're taking. And let's create a 2D views as shows on that information sheet. Scale, I'm going to select 1:1. And the project number is 10.1 or 2, and then your first initial and the last name. Once you have that information, ignore that message right now, and then start creating the base, which is going to maybe ask you for smaller scale. You may want to not accept that this time, change them to 1:1. You should have enough room for 1:1 scale. And let's adjust them and add the side view. Even though without the side view, you could still add the note and describe that thickness. But in this case, we want to practice on some more with dimensioning, and we add dimension to that one. That's the idea on the side view. Okay, let's do some other changes. As requires in our most of the drawing we are doing, we are going to change the color for dimensions. We are going to change some of the center line settings as required. Let's begin adding some center marks first. I'm adding the center marks for all the holes. So notice all the holes are same size and same spacing, and all we need to do is basically add one dimension and describe that there are 8 of them. As you notice, these half circles or broken circles are how is center line automatically added to, and that's an interesting feature in Inventor. So let's go ahead and add some center line, even though they are very small, but we can add for holes on the side view, and for this holes also appears here between 2, which I selected the bisector option. And now let's go to change some of the settings under the manage. Under the start editor, you can change the center line here, or you can also change with right click on the dimension itself. Right now, since we're on the settings, we can change all this to divided by 2 for A, For B, also divided by 2. Oops, I did not delete that IN. You should delete that letters inch mark. And that should give you, C is not necessary in this case. We will add division, divide by 2 also for D. So A, B, and D change. Whatever the value default is, divide by 2, so it gets smaller, and that should give you enough to change here. As you notice, it changed. Next, we're going to change the color for dimensions and center lines. On that, you go to Layer or Layers, select Dimension, select the color, select red. For center line, select magenta. For center mark, also select magenta. Save and close. As you notice, the dimension changed, center line changed. And also settings, now the center line appears as a center line. Before it was showing solid lines. Notice that all the holes are generated the hidden lines. So in your sketch assignment, if you have some holes, always show hidden lines unless it's the section or sectional views, which we will discuss later. Okay, let's continue adding the dimension. For linear dimension, for the top portion, I'm going to add a dimension using the chain dimension. Select the Annotate tab, select Chain. I'm starting from the right end here, selecting the line, selecting the circle, continue selecting all the circles, and except the last line, which I'm not going to select because that we have to leave one dimension blank based on the tolerancing rule. That would be proper way to do it because you want not to accumulate this tolerancing, so leave one of them blank for adjusting based on the tolerance. Okay, let's, after your selections, right click and continue. And now is asking where, how far. So this is critical when you're selecting this point. I see some of you are getting too close. To try to do ½ inch, that guideline that we have established in the beginning of dimensioning section. So click on approximately ½ inch. After that, right click and say create. You need to do this last step, otherwise you would cancel. So make sure right click and create. Okay, now back to here. If these are getting too close to each other, you can always remember, you can press escape to get out of dimensions, and then click on this number and move them to other side so they don't run to into each other. Okay, let's continue adding some more dimension here. After that, we have one dimension that covers everything, overall dimension, all of us we need to show. So that one is shown on the bottom. So I'm going to wait until I finish this portion with another chain dimension. For this one, I will begin from the left end, selecting this, then next selecting this circle. After that, selecting this circle. And then I have the third one here. Right click, continue. Okay, some reason is picking extra point for me. So if this happens to you, press escape key not to accept. Because my intention is to give it from center to center, not this piece. It's not useful because you're thinking about, again, operation, not geometry. So let's do the dimension one more time. Chain. This time, rather than picking, I will pick this line. Rather than picking this, the circumference of the circle, I'm going to pick the point. See if that eliminates that selection. Point, center point. Now, right click, create. And that solves the problem. As you notice, it shows from center to center. And approximately, again, ½ inch. You don't want to be too close, you don't want to be too far. So just adjust that. And left click and right click to create. Let's add more dimension. In this case, we have this radius dimension here. You notice that shows 1, 3 because we have only 2 decimal places. So if you are changing all of them to 3 places, the best place would be not to change in here, go into the settings under the manage and changing everything to 3 decimal places. Because this is the only one and we want to maintain the 2 decimal places, so we change that individually by selecting the tolerance in tab, precision and tolerance, and then select to 2 or 3 rather, 3 decimal places. So you don't want to show 1.13, rather 1.125. So let's continue adding the dimension for the diameter of the circle. And that one has extra information here. We say that in the beginning, we want to say that there are 8 of them by saying 8x. That typical underneath, or it says TYP, is not required anymore. It used to be, now we are saying 8x. That's kind of explains there are 8 of them. But if you want to do that, you can always type TYP there too. Not here. That means typical, they're all the same sizes with the same equal spacing. So we have taken care of that part. Now we have overall dimension. Just dimension regularly how you do, selecting 2 points and add in this dimension, spacing a little bit less than the first one. And just I have provided the copy for you, so make sure check your assignment sheet copy and try to come up with the same format, and if you want to get the best result. Okay, let's go to add some more dimensions here. We do have another chain dimension on the vertical side. So let's go to finish that one. Begin from the top line. Next, we begin the center here, and center on this one, and center on this small circle on the bottom, and that takes care of those. Right click and continue. And then again, this is showing we are so tight in space. So I'm going to show you how to fix that anytime this happens, because I'm putting these dimensions here. This is not the only place. I could go to the right side also to do that. If I want to do that, I need to move this extension line back to this size. But because my copy that I have provided for you on this side, I'm going to just try to do that. And then right click and finish this first. Okay, now I need to get out of the dimensions by pressing escape. And then try to move everything to give more space here, because I don't want to go into, sometimes I notice some of you have your dimensions run into the title block. That's not a good practice. So let's just move the best you can, move the view. We have enough space here on this side. Even I have to use this one to move because there's not much dimension goes to the side view. So I can get closer. As you see, I can do that by moving. So I have plenty of space now. I don't have to be tight in this area. So in the beginning, you don't know what's going to happen. So learn how to kind of manipulate this dimensioning and try to move, try to adjust your spacing and all these things necessary. As you see, one of the advantages on this using the chain, notice that gives you a lot of sharing place. It gives you the dots rather than arrows, which looks much nicer. So try to apply that technique. Add the overall dimension in this case, so between these 2 points. And the spacing, we have plenty of room there now. Okay, let's check one more time, see what dimension is missing. In this case, we have this fillet dimensions, and so there are. So in this case, make sure that you're not picking the points. So just sometimes it helps to zoom and then pick the arc rather than just picking the points. So if you pick the points, it's hard to get that leader line to display correctly. Again, notice that you don't want to show vertical or horizontal. So you don't want to cross dimension lines. So proper space. And again, you need to add 4 times, or in this case, 4 places. That's what it means, right? 4x means 4 places. And this default in the bracket would be R50. R.5. That is all the dimension you need at this point. Looks like that's when it's completed. And make sure you export your PDF file, and you are done with this assignment. Go to File. Oh, one more thing we need to do before we do that, of course, retrieve your information. Retrieve your model information here when we have modeling information. In this case, I have enough space here. Probably I can place them in a place that fits. Let's go to Annotate and retrieve the model information. I hope that I can get the model information here because I don't have the 3D view. And only the model, not the sketch. And so, okay, I apply and then cancel. So we have what we have on the IPT file, the model file brings into Sheet, so you don't have to type that. So this seems like it's a good place. Just leave it there. Mass and material information. Now, don't forget to save your work. This is IDW file that we should keep, and also export PDF and submit your PDF file. So don't forget to do that. That concludes your assignment for this base block.